Indian markets are outperforming. How brilliant is that? Let's look at the YTD performance just to establish that where we are. And where we are right now in terms of a relative outperformance and also absolute outperformance, I think the bulls should be proud because we are up nearly 0.5% for the year. Yes, Nischal Maheshwari, you heard me right. We are up 0.5% for the year at a time when global markets are down by 7 to 8%. Is this largely because of strong earnings, or this is just a liquidity from local guys who's bailing us out?
So I think, Nikunj, it is both the things basically. I think a lot of liquidity was there which was waiting on the sidelines. Actually, the way the market had run up in the first month, I think a lot of people were waiting on the sidelines to actually come back and buy it. So we have seen some of that liquidity getting invested into the market. And there is no doubt about that the earnings are better than expected in the current quarter, and that is giving the confidence for people to actually come back and invest into this market again.
So Nischal, what is your big picture view on the earnings season so far? 49 Nifty 50 companies have come out with numbers, and surprise has come from an unexpected quarter, which is IT.
Yes, I think besides IT, I think even metals, I think, has surprised. We have seen surprises coming from FMCG. So I think odd quarters basically we've seen surprises. Even in case of Larsen, I think there was a surprise. So there has been several of these large cap companies basically which have surprised in the current quarter, and I believe that surprises will continue in the next quarter also. Because all of them, as you know, basically the base was demon, and from that base these guys have been showing good numbers.
So what about the underperformers, and do you believe that PSBs, especially in the light of the new RBI norms, would continue to be a sticky pocket? We would continue to see, at least in the next quarter, for sure, a case of high provisions from all of the PSBs.
So my view on that, I think the PSBs, for PSBs, I think it's not going to be next quarter alone. I think I believe there's at least 2 to 3 quarters before the peaking out of NPAs is going to happen, and we will continue to see that most of these accounts, whether they were in SDR or 525, I think at max around 45 to 50% was has been provided, and 60% needs to be provided basically. So I think there is some more way to go, and accounts which have been not acknowledged by some banks and it has been provided by other banks, I think that cleanup has to happen. So I believe there are at least 2 or 3 quarters more basically before the NPA cycle peaks out.
Where do you think the challenge could be in? Starting off alphabetically, Nischal, do you believe that aviation could be in a sticky spot? Not in the quarter gone by, because most of them have shown some decent profit numbers irrespective of the rise in commodity. But if crude prices would continue to be the way they are and the spiral up would continue lingering around that $70 per barrel mark, maybe then, you know, that ATF price high could hit some of the aviation names.
Yes, so we have to see basically how much they are able to pass it on. Given that the growth has been very, very strong, basically 15 to 20% kind of a growth we are seeing in traffic numbers, I think a good amount of that can be passed on to the consumers. If you really look at it, I think most of these guys are coming on with a very strong, clean balance sheet except for Jet, and Jet is actually trying to sort out things for itself. So I think industry seems to be in a good shape at the moment, and at a $70, I don't think that this industry is going under, and I believe there are good times ahead basically where 15-20% kind of a growth continues to happen.
Nischal, what's the call on IT right now? If a large part of the earnings meter reflects that numbers were in line this quarter, that's 44% for the Nifty, 31% for the BSE 200 results, then, and in IT, within that, of course, within that kind of segment, IT has also come out with numbers where they've largely met expectations and maintained guidance. Do you think things could be turning around? I mean, is that seen really as an indication of good times lying ahead?
Definitely, I think IT has turned the corner, and two things have happened in the user market. One is obviously, if you look at it, the profitability as a record high, so as far as the US companies are concerned. And secondly, because of the tax cut which has been announced in the US, I think both of them are very good indicators for the user market, because they will have more money to spend. And historically, we have seen basically in these kind of times, the discretionary spend in the IT goes up, and I think that will help most of the companies. The mid caps have anyway started showing very, very strong numbers, and the outlook also, most of the mid caps have given out, is pretty good. What we have to see is the transition happening basically in the large caps. Some of the large caps have already started doing well, basically like Tech Mahindra, and we are yet to wait others, but I believe a 10 to 15% kind of a growth for the large caps in the next year is very much on the cards.
And that's that's encouraging to hear, because one would have imagined that with the US market recovering, things would start looking up for IT, but that's not getting captured in the price action. So heartening to know that the view is changing out there. Would you believe that the view would be changing on pharma too, or that's one set which is so company specific that it's difficult to paint the entire segment with the same brush?
No, I don't think so. Any things are getting better for pharma basically, and it is not about the regulatory impact, because I think sooner or later most of these companies who are world-class companies, they will get their act right as far as the regulations are concerned. But my worry remains to be about the market out there and the consolidation of the purchases as far as the US market is concerned, and that is what is driving the prices down. If you look at it, most of the generics basically the prices are down by 70 to 80%, and that's why you've seen most of their US sales for most of the companies either are stagnant or have come down dramatically. Sun is a case in point, from 2.5 billion to 1.4 billion, but I think a lot of that is got to do with the regulatory impact, but I think a good amount is basically because of the prices coming down as far as the US market is concerned, and I do not see a let up on that. So that's why I am worried about that. If you are basing your purchases that the US market is going to recover, I do not think so. Yes, the domestic market continues to be good, but then the valuations do not necessarily reflect the downturn as far as US market is concerned. So that's why I am not very positive on the pharma sector.
All right, Nischal, we leave it at that. Thanks very much for joining us with your perspective in the markets. We really appreciate your opinion and your insights.